normally I would start with a lob wedge and just work my way through the bag. This year I've started every single warm-up with a 7-iron, and I do about 10 drill swings just to sort of reinforce what I'm doing technically. I feel that sometimes during a tournament my swing can regress as the week goes on. So I thought of ways how do I sort of stop that, and just by spending 5 minutes at the start of my warm-up, working on the particular drills that I'm working on at the time. I set up this drill here, and all I'm doing, it's just a sort of, I don't particularly look at where the stick is. It's more of a sort of, it's there in my subconscious. I've got a habit of moving off the ball in my backswing. So I've kind of got this in my peripheral, and all I'm semi-conscious of is just not moving off the ball. So keeping my eyes on that on the backswing. So I might hit 10 shots, just focused on that.
That's quite a common fault with club golfers, just normal golfers, that swaying up or moving up. Yeah,
absolutely. It's just, we as tour players will do all the same things that amateur club golfers will do. So pretty much any drill that we do would sort of relate to most amateur golfers. One thing that helps me with my wedge play and my distance control is that I work off of a sort of 6 o'clock swing. I get the club halfway back to sort of halfway through in the through swing. And for me that should go about 65 yards. And I've done it before where I've got a 5 o'clock swing and 8 o'clock swing. And it helps, it does help, but especially for amateur golfers, if you can get a drill or just a feeling of halfway back in the backswing with your most lofted club, maybe your 52 degree, whatever it is, I think that will really help guys wedge play.
If you're having a bad warm-up, if you just feel like it's all going wrong and you're thinking, oh Christ, here we go, is there anything you can do to try and, is there like a swing thought you go back to or something you can try and fall back on if you think I'm really having a tough time of it?
Yeah, that's pretty common. You're not going to pitch up every day and hit it as good as you'd expect to hit it, or hit it as good as you'd like to hit it. We've all got sort of go-to swing thoughts and go-to feels. My one tends to come with, it tends to be more of a backswing go-to. My swing faults would always tend to be my shoulders turn on too steep a plane, then I would sway off the ball quite a lot, and then on the downswing I then kind of move back and out of the shot. So for me, I've got two kind of feels. One on the backswing would just be feeling a bit of width in the club, that helps to shallow out my shoulders. And then one on the downswing is just to feel like my head stays out to the ball, rather than backing up through it and out and it drags the path left.
So you think most golfers would benefit from having maybe one or two
go-to
thoughts?
One go-to thought.
One, right. If you're ever running late and your warm-up routine's cut short, how big an impact can that have?
I got a bit of advice years and years ago from a psychologist, and he said that all you need to do is cut your warm-up in quantity, but not in time. And obviously in time, but you can start rushing. You can get to the putting green and oh no, I've not hit any putts, and you just start hitting putts really quickly.
Yeah.
You need to stick to, if you normally hit 10 putts or 20 putts, you need to hit 5 putts, but you need to hit them at the same pace that you would hit your putts if you were on time. Same in the range. If you only get to hit 10 balls before you go, make sure it's 10 good shots. 10 proper routines, rather than, right, I'm going to hit 20 shots and rush them. That's not going to do you any good. Yeah, I always find with the driver the biggest thing, the most important thing is because you're going to try and hit this the hardest out of all your clubs, and it's almost to feel the opposite. It's almost to keep it smoother. I might do the same thing with the driver, that I do with other clubs. I might hit a couple of fades, a couple of draws. Again,
just get that feel, because it might be slightly different day to day.
Yeah, it might be slightly different day to day, and off the tee is often a place where you need to move it a little left to right or a little right to left. You just don't know. Obviously, the golf course, there's more chance of you having to do that with a driver than most other clubs, really.
So would you end your practice routine in any specific way, or is it just once you've hit a few drivers you think, right, that's me done? Or
Yeah.
Do you try and visualise that first tee shot or anything like that?
I mean, more often than not, the first tee shot is the driver. But if the first tee shot is a hybrid or whatever it is, I will go and hit a couple of them just before I go. But yeah, like you say, I always try and, my last shots, I've never got any training aids on the ground. I'm always picking a target, and the target's not always straight down the range. You know, so I'll hit one up the right, one up the left, just to try and move it around. You can get comfortable, obviously standing on a driving range here, you've got a mat that's set up square all the time. You're always hitting to the same target. So I think it's important that you maybe move that around a little bit. That you hit a couple of different shots to get the feelings of draws, fades, whatever you want to do.
Around the greens, what's the first club that comes out the bag?
First club, I normally get my gap wedge out. I'll hit a few sort of bump and runs, kind of try to run it up to a far pin, just like this one here. Yeah, again, you just try to feel the strike, get used to the grass. I mean, the grass that we play on pretty much changes every week, and it's difficult to make sure you get the strike and the connection because it's so important. So yeah, the first few you're hitting, you are just sort of feeling it, soft arms, and yeah, just getting an idea for green speed, and the strike.
And what will you spend chipping, 10-15 minutes?
10 minutes, yeah, 10-15 minutes. You need loft, so the ball will go further up, and there will be more sort of wrist hinge, there will be more release. And it's just about trying to play a variety of shots. A lot of people think you get the ball back and you hit down on it, but in reality it's probably the opposite. It's more about getting the ball. I mean, you're not having your ball way up on the left side of your foot, but generally pretty middle, and it's about being shallow. It's not about getting down steep into the ball. So your weight needs to be left, but you're not looking to take a big divot.
On the putting green, what's the routine here?
So I always start my time on the putting green hitting about an 8-foot putt. I get the mat down. That's more of a sort of a visual, so it's a path mat. So you kind of see where you want the putter to go through stroke. I've always had a tendency to get my path up the right hand side, so I'm conscious of that kind of move. And the reason that my path would always go up the right hand side is on my through stroke, my head backs up and my putter goes out to the right. So I just hit putts on this, really working hard to keep my head still, and that helps get the path not further left but more on line.
So you say most people should probably invest in a training aid for the putting green. Would it help?
I think it would help. Maybe not even that, maybe just having a routine. If you had a routine of things that you do, whether it's a pace drill, you can get the stick 1.5 feet behind the hole and you hit a 10 foot or a 15 foot or a 20 foot, or just to get a feel for how the greens are that day. I think that's really beneficial for any golfer. Once I've done my drill here, I always putt with one ball. I think that's important because you actually get direct feedback of what you're doing, rather than the first one you hit, you might hit it too hard and you just drag another one over, and you hit another, and you don't really pay attention to whether it's short or long. So I'll pick out a putt, so this is say 20-foot putt. Again, I use a line when I putt, and I go through my full routine and hit the putt.
Is there any putting green politics on tour?
Nah, when the putting greens are smaller, the caddies tend to not come on.
Find your own space.
Find your own space. There's nothing worse than the guy that's got the tees out everywhere, all over the place, and yeah, I mean it's frowned upon, but just because it's frowned upon doesn't mean guys don't do it.
Are you willing to name names?
Oh, no.
And how long will you spend on the putting green? 10-15 minutes again?
So I spend 15 minutes at the start of my warm-up, and then before I tee off I do about 10 minutes. So before my warm-up it's always sort of longer putts, try to get the pace of the greens, and then prior to teeing off it's all just 6-footers, 4-footers, 5-footers. I just want to see the ball going in the hole. You know, it's important just to get the confidence up and actually seeing the ball rolling in.